What's going on? We have a PS5 in here again with the broken HDMI port. Oh, I don't know if you can see it. It looks normal, but it's sort of like shifted up, probably, which means like the console like either fell this way or the cord is like pulled down on it or something like that. It's been worked on before. Whenever I went to test it, I plugged it up and the lights weren't working, so we're gonna take a look at that too. It's pretty dirty in here, not like crazy, but let me go ahead and get this vacuumed off and we'll open it up. Alright, let's see how fast we can open this. I don't think the screw unscrewed all the way. Yeah. Oh, there's a screw missing right here on the fan. Kind of dusty in here. Ooh, look at that. Everything's blowing up in here. So it's just as I expected. There was two options. Either they rerouted the wire wrong, or not wire, but ribbon cable. Either they rewired it wrong, put it over this hole, and they screwed the screw back through it, but it looks like, sorry, I'm a little excited about this because the ribbon's not broken. So yeah, that should be easy enough. We'll just plug that back in and he'll have lights again. Where'd that little plastic piece go? I gotta find that. Yeah, this thing about blew up coming out of there. What is that? What is that? Huh, maybe just some dust or something. Kind of dusty in here. I'm gonna give it a quick little vacuum and brush out. All I can think about is the repair shop that this went to before. I mean, they even try to put the wires here and the antennae back in the tape here, which means that they could have easily screwed through, any part of this. And then of course they didn't plug, like, how did they get away with not plugging this in? You know what I'm saying? Well, they just say, oh, well, sometimes, the lights don't work or something whenever you put it back together. Is that what they said? Like, come on, how do you miss the lights? Anyways, we're gonna go ahead and pop off this side panel here. Oh, I forgot a screw. Well, there wasn't supposed to be a screw there, that's why I forgot it. See, look at that. That right there, that's the hole for the fan screw. So they probably just didn't put the fan screw back in because the hole wasn't open. So that makes sense, right? Oop, I left the screw on there. All right, let's make sure that this bracket's on here. Yep, okay. Yeah, it looks like whoever replaced the port on this before, which the guy, when he brought it in, he said that nobody's worked on it before, but I was like, no, someone definitely has. Maybe he just didn't know about it, depending on where he bought it from. Sometimes, by the way, like GameStop, Walmart and stuff will sell these as brand new, even though that they're used, which I think is crappy. Like, why would you do that? But I guess if they're in good enough condition, then they sell it as new. So a lot of people think that they're getting a new PS5 and they're paying new prices for it, whereas it's a used PS5. So yeah, this one's definitely been worked on by somebody who is a little janky, I would say. Thankfully, they didn't make too much of a mess on the HDMI port area, so it actually looks okay. Not the best though. There's some solder splatter over here and they put something on it that's, I don't know what that is. But yeah, even looking at this, you would think the port's not broken, but it is very much so broken. So we're gonna go ahead and get this over to our soldering center here and get that taken off. Also, liquid metal, as usual, is not covering the surface area, so we'll fix that too. Okay, so before I put my flux on here, I went ahead and looked at the back of the port to look at the pins on the board. It looks like some of the pins aren't even attached to the board, and it looks like there's almost no solder on the board. So the person who did this was probably fairly inexperienced with doing these repairs. Thankfully, they didn't do more damage. But yeah, there was not enough solder on here, and that's ultimately what caused this HDMI port to fail. So we're gonna go ahead and heat this up and get this port popped off, and then we'll put a new port on there. Actually, before I take this off, look at the footholes there. And look at the solder. That's solder on the side of the port right there. Tip of my finger. That's all solder. And the footholes have no solder in them. You can see the same thing on this side. Look at the solder built up on the side of the port, but there's none in the footholes. Looks like somebody tried to feed solder through those footholes, kind of like what I do, but they obviously just didn't know what they're doing. So, yep, time to get this port off, and we'll get a new one put on there. Hopefully there's nothing ripped up, but we'll see. Alright, so as you can probably figure, this port is fairly loose, and it doesn't need much heat in order to pop it off, because they used a ton of their solder. I'm gonna go ahead and get this cleaned up though, because I hate this flux that they use. It's super sticky and it smells horrible. Already, even after the cleaning in this area, it looks fantastic. So there's a little solder lacking on these pads on the left hand side. I know you can't really see it on this camera, but they don't have as much solder on them, so I'm gonna go ahead and replace solder on all those pads there, and we'll heat it back up and get the new port on. I've got some new solder on those pads there. I did knock off the capacitor a little bit, so I just went ahead and moved that back to where it's supposed to be. That's about the only problem with that capacitor being so close, is whenever you're trying to replace the solder on the pads, you can easily knock it off. So, but it's no big deal. It's just a quick little move. So I'm gonna go ahead and heat this up. As I'm heating this up, I'm gonna show you how the pros do this. You just feed the solder in this hole, not on the side of the port, on the holes here. And what that does is it sucks the solder back into the holes from the bottom side of the board. I don't even know if you guys can see that. But we got the solder in the footholes there. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure all those pins are connected, and I'll give you a close up. And that's how the footholes should look. As you can see, the solder is pulled up into each one of those footholes on both sides. Okay, so this port's not going anywhere. The problem is, there's a lot of places that they don't know how to get that solder through those footholes there. But if you know how to do it, then this port isn't going anywhere. So just had to show the noob that this is prime time here. This is the pro hour, okay? But yeah, this port looks good. I'm gonna check the pins on the back of the port, make sure they're all secure and we don't have any cold solder joints. And then once the board cools down, I'll fix up the liquid metal a little bit, and then we'll start putting it back together. Liquid metal back where it's supposed to be. Looks like everything's stuck well, so it'll keep the system cool. I will tell, obviously, the customer that they need to lay the system down instead of standing it up to help prevent this, and then to help prevent the port from breaking again. So I tried getting all this stuff off, but they use such a corrosive flux. Everyone uses it. I don't know what it is, but it's super corrosive and it just eats away at the board, so it doesn't really come off well. But as soon as the board is cooled down here, we'll go ahead and put it back together. Alright, we get the board back in, and I plugged in the ribbon cable here, not to brag or anything, but the light should work now. We're gonna go ahead and try to pop this plastic piece in here too, and then get everything assembled. I had another PS5 come in, so I'll probably just skip the assembly portion here, and then we'll just go straight to the testing. Just real quick, I got the plastic piece back in here, and also, like a professional, I went ahead and taped this antenna back on here, so it's not going to go anywhere. It's not like they ruined it or anything last time, but you know, that's just minor detail, you know, that we pay attention to here. So hopefully the lights work, and we got that rerouted, so now we can go ahead and put it back together and test it. Of course, it is good to go. So make sure you lay your console down just like this, where this logo here is facing up. It's not on the other side, only on this side. If you have the disk drive will be on the bottom. That's how you help prevent the HDMI port from breaking in the future. Anyways, on to this PS5 Slim. So we'll go ahead and give that customer a call, and we'll be on to the PS5 Slim here. But I'm not going to record this because I don't feel like making a longer video than what the video has already been. So thanks for watching.